Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. So, I'm excited today because we're going to be bringing back one of our most popular, actually, our most popular guest on this podcast to date, Logan Moffett, who is an investor in mobile home parks and also the owner of his own real estate team as well. So, our last episode was so popular for our listeners that I needed to bring him back and to talk more into mobile home park investing, what he's working on, and some of his best tips for you to make passive income and build wealth in real estate through mobile home parks. So, Logan, man, welcome back to the show. So excited to have you back on and share a little bit more of your knowledge.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back and excited to give you guys some updates and some of the new strategies that we've started implementing.
Yeah, that
The
sounds
new year.
Yeah, I mean, it's the new year, so that sounds super exciting that you're going to share some new things that you guys are doing. But if you guys don't know who Logan is, make sure to go check out our previous episode that we did. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description down below so that way you guys can find it and learn more about what Logan is doing. But Logan, man, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of what you're doing? So, start of 2025, I'm sure you're working on a lot of different things with your investments and your team as well. So, we'd love to get an update from you and really see kind of where your business and where you guys are headed at this year.
Yeah, so we are at 9 mobile home parks right now. So I think we've acquired one or two more since the last time we spoke, and we keep buying stuff. But um, over this last year, in general, some of the big projects that we finished, we built an apartment building. So I
Oh,
took that from the ground up. And that was a big project. So it was about a $3.5 million apartment building in a downtown area here in Utah. So we did that, and I finalized the expansion of my mobile home park. My first park that I bought had 12 homes in it when I bought it, and today has 33 homes. And so we brought in all the infrastructure, we brought in all the homes. I brought in 19 brand new homes from the factory.
wow.
Went through all of that, got them all set up, and got them all rent. Well, not all. Some of them I sold, some of them I rented. I think I own. Let's see, they're about probably 13 of the new ones out of the 19, and they rent between 1,400 and 1,650 a month. So it's in a pretty hot area, and it's a great return. So really excited about that. That was a huge project. That was big. Um, Got that done, did a few flips, did a lot subdivision, one of the flips. Um, and oh, let's see if there's anything else big that we did. I mean, those were those are pretty time consuming projects. We did get a grant actually for one of our parks. My second park that I bought, it was on a well, it still is. It's on a well, and because there's so many people on it, based on EPA standards, I had to have a public drinking water company, which brought a lot of regulation. And the small systems, the EPA hates them because they're hard to manage and regulate. And so we actually qualified for a grant for $250,000, fully forgivable,
Wow.
um, to connect to the city water. So that's happening this summer. So we're making improvements there. We're getting things ready for that. Fixing up one of the houses right now. Going to fix up another one of the houses, and then we're going to tear up the roads and put in culinary water. Get off that well, and yeah, it's been an interesting experience because I started realizing that there's opportunities that I haven't been accessing for government funding.
Yeah.
So that was last year, and our team we closed 115 deals, six active agents. So a lot of agents doing a lot of deals, about $50 million in closed volume. So it was a good year. I know a lot of people slowed down, but we our broker told my sales manager yesterday that said, oh yeah, you guys, everybody else for the most part is down 30%, but you guys are up 30%, so let's talk. So we're focusing on what works and doubling down doing those things. I spend most of my time investing. This year the big push is going to be more development. We Right now, we have identified a number of projects. We're probably going to do somewhere around 50 units this next year, from the ground up. So, for somebody new doing development, I think it's pretty big, being able to do something like that. But the thing is, we have a major shortage of housing all across the country, even in rural parts of the country. We have a shortage of housing. One of the areas that I'm looking to do about somewhere between 20 to 30 units, they just opened a coal mine, believe it or not. You don't hear a lot of those opening up, but they opened a new coal mine, hired 150 miners, and they said, we're hiring 150 more over the next year, and the county doesn't have any housing. And they're like, how are we going to get people to build housing? And so they start offering you things. So, you get in a situation like that, and it's like, okay, let's make this happen. Let's do something. So, I'm always looking to buy stuff, always looking to get good deals. One of my big pushes this year is to maximize cash flow. Really want to be able to do that. And, I think one of the topics we talked about last time was this idea of these mom and pop owners of these parks. But, what's so funny about it is it's not just mobile home parks, it's also storage units. It's also small multifamily. Anything that's under really 20 units or so. I mean, some of them you can pick up really cheap. If people aren't on wholesaler lists, they should get a wholesaler list. They should go to their local investor meetings. Just try to network, try to get these opportunities, and get better and better at finding the ways to make money on these deals. I think a lot of people want to get out of the 9 to 5, but they don't ever jump in.
Mhm.
And the truth is, you may have to work 9 to 5 and then work 5 to 10 for 6 months to be able to get out. And some people aren't willing to do that, but the people that really want to get out and want to change their lives will do that. Yeah, we have all sorts of fun projects. One thing that happened, I don't think we talked about it. I think it was probably right before, or right after the last podcast, but I had my first single family home that had a fire.
Oh,
And so I've been going through all the insurance stuff, and I pretty much am going to have a new house when it's all done from a firework from the 4th of July, one of the neighbors. So, you start making modifications. That house has a little ADU unit in the basement. It already had it. And I started looking at different things that I could improve it, beyond, they took it down to the studs. So we got a new roof and everything. And I thought, well, this is the time to put can lights in. So we put about 50 can lights in a little 2-story house with 2 units, a lot of can lights. And we added a washer and dryer upstairs because they used to share one. We figured out how to make it so they have 2 different yards. So there's things like that that really, really create a lot of value. And so every project that I'm a part of, I'm looking, how can I create more value? How can I get the most out of it? And I mean, have 5, 6 projects going on at any given moment, and I started with one. So going back to these mom and pop owners, there's tons of opportunity, tons. I mean, people are probably listening from all across the country and all across the world, but you can figure out how to do seller financing and get sellers to carry for you, and it changes everything, because then it becomes you putting in work to make it more valuable. And one of the biggest ways that I've added value in my parks is by going in and removing all the junk. I'm not talking about the homes. I'm talking about all the junk in their yards, the abandoned cars. I mean, I had this park, my second park I bought. It was like the first or second weekend after I owned it. I brought in a dump trailer, and there was a transfer station that takes junk to the dump, and it was on the same street as the park. So it was about a 3-minute drive. We brought 15 loads to the dump, and we stopped because the dump closed. And we could have brought more junk. And it's so interesting because you can literally put in sweat equity and use your hands and create so much value that people don't even think about. You can painting, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to do that. You can clean up junk, you can clean up weeds, you can do some basic landscaping. One of the videos that I put up, I don't know if you saw it, but in the park that I brought in those 19 new homes, we started doing some landscaping, some xeriscaping, and there was a big empty area that we couldn't put any homes. And I went and figured out a plan and, figured out how to make it look nice. And we covered 30,000 square feet of space. I actually have, if I can get this to pull up, let's see. I can show you.
Yeah. As you're pulling that up, man, just kind of want to recap. Man, you've been doing so much, right? Just for the past couple of months, and all of that has to do with adding value. And
Yep.
I think it's so cool that you're getting into, development from the ground up because it's like you had a little bit of experience doing that, right? Getting the grant from the
Mhm.
government, right? Making pretty much connecting to the city's water. So now you've got a little bit of experience in that, and now you're kind of ready to move into, I guess, bigger and better things on that same lines as well. So
Yeah.
it's a whole new aspect to adding value, right? When you're developing from the ground up.
Yep. Yeah. And one thing, because we have a housing shortage, if you're not going to be the one to add the inventory to where you live, who's going to do it?
Mm.
So I don't know if you can see this, but you can zoom in a
Yep.
little. So it's a little blurry. Probably my fault with the drone. It's a new drone. So this whole area over here, if you can see my cursor, we covered that in the left, kind of middle left. We covered all that in rock and planted about 50 plants. We did grasses and a few other different types of plants, and then we staggered them with boulders. And since then, we've done even more landscaping, brought in even more. But you can actually see all the new homes I brought in. So the left column, we brought in 7 new homes there. We brought in 4 new homes on the middle left, 4 homes on the middle right, and then another 4 homes on the bottom right. And those are all new homes that we brought in. So when I bought this park, believe it or not, I bought this park for $230,000 originally. 15 spaces, 3 were vacant, and it looked like junk. It was bad. It was bad, bad, bad. And we've just gone through and made improvements. Our plan is to go and put in some amenities, picnic benches, maybe a playground in the rocks, and do some mulch or like wood chips, in the
Mhm.
playground or a swing set, that kind of thing. But a lot of it is just not being afraid and getting to work, adding value. Right? How can you add value to this project? And you can look at the same thing for your life. How can you add value to what you're doing in your life?
Yep.
But I find that most people are just too afraid to do stuff. That's the issue. They're just too scared. They don't start anywhere. My first investment, besides my primary home, my first purchase of real estate was my first home that I bought. And it was a little tiny condo that had all sorts of problems. The community had all sorts of issues. And I bought it for like nothing. Had a little HELOC, and then I fixed it up, and then I sold it a couple months later. I bought it for somewhere. And I know when I say these prices, people are gonna be like, "Oh, well, my prices are way more." It's all relative, and a good deal you can find money, right? If somebody has a good enough deal, just send me a message on Instagram. But I bought it for like 80 something thousand bucks. And what was interesting about it was I actually had a buyer that was going to buy it. And my sister, who's on my team, was representing the seller to sell it. And they had a home under contract to buy. And my seller backed out like 2 days before closing. And so I was like, okay, I have like $13,000 in commissions coming in if I let this thing close, and I can buy this thing for like 80,000 bucks. So I did. So I really got it somewhere like in the 70s, right? Pulled
Mhm.
on the HELOC, bought the condo, and fixed it up, sold it about 2 months later, and I sold it for 117,000. Now, it was my first time doing it, and I actually didn't do the work on it. I hired somebody else to do it. So, you know, I I just find that so many people are afraid to hire somebody. They're afraid, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? Look, I've had houses burned down. I have insurance. I try to mitigate as much as I can, but it happens. So you just can't be afraid. You got to keep moving forward and find ways to make it work. Find ways to be more efficient and work at a higher level, doing common things in uncommon ways.
I love that. I love that. Doing common things in uncommon ways, right? That's how you add more value. And I love that you guys, I mean, like you mentioned that you're gonna add like a swing set, like picnic
Yeah.
tables to your mobile home park that you currently have. I mean, not when you think of like buying and owning mobile home parks, that's not what you think of, right? You probably
Yeah,
just think of something on the opposite side of that,
yeah,
but you're thinking completely different. You're thinking, how can I make this the best that it can possibly be and really maximize the value and in turn the profit on this?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, one of the big things with those picnic benches that we talked about, I want to put little barbecues next to them.
Mm,
It is an amenity, but it also gets people to go and use those barbecues instead of doing barbecues right outside their homes that are kind of a fire risk, especially the old ones.
mhm.
So you can be strategic about how you develop these spaces. But there's a lot of amenities that you can add without doing a lot. One of the biggest amenities is actually adding fencing to certain areas. I'll pull up another property that I can show you. And this is, I'll give you a little backstory in this one. This is a park that I bought 0 down, and I cross collateralized, which means I utilize another property to put a lien on it to protect the seller. And then I went and bought this with nothing out of pocket. And then I rolled the money back in on it. And we've started doing a lot of work in painting these, but I want to show you this idea for this amenity with fencing because I think it's pretty powerful. So I own this rectangle of homes right here.
Mhm.
And if you look at it, you can see a bunch of these are multifamily. So like that's a triplex. This is a might be a triplex or a sixplex. Can't count the rows. Here's a fourplex, another triplex, duplex. There's a bunch of these multifamily because this was used for, if I go, let's see if I can jump ahead to one of these. So they actually have casinos out here. This is over the border in Nevada. So you can see those casinos. So in the background, those are all, that's why they built this housing for workers to build the casinos.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what I'm getting at with the amenity side of it, so I'll give you an example right here. Trash enclosures. You can see this dumpster right here. Well, if we go in and create trash enclosures, now it will help. Yeah, this is when I bought it. It still was in really bad shape. so but I look at this as opportunity, right? Because it
Right.
was 0 down. I rolled the money back in from the rents back into the property. And I have very, very little money in this property, and I've increased the cash flow by a ton. When you increase the cash flow, it increases the value. When I bought it, there were 11 units occupied. Today, we're about 33, 34 units,
Oh,
right? Again, creating housing. Who's going to do it? Who's going to create the housing? If it's not you, who's going to do it? So, creating dumpster enclosures, you can see we have these 2 dumpsters. That's one amenity I want to add. Eventually, I'd like to put a road in here.
yep.
Walkways to the units. One of the biggest ones that will add value, a lot of value, is fencing. Because if I put in fencing in certain places, I can create an amenity that is actually valuable to tenants. I'll give you an example. So right here, are you able to see my cursor?
Yep.
Okay, so right here, you will notice there's 2 homes backed up to each other. Our plan right now is to put a fence in between the homes right here with a gate so people can park along this side at the end. And then put a little half fence here and turn it into a dog park.
Wow.
Right? A lot of these people have animals because most renters have animals, but they don't have a space to run around.
Yeah.
Put some benches in there. And then you can also go in there and put a trash can. Because I have a
Mhm.
little manager out there that does some part-time work for me. Put a trash can that people can pick up dog poop and put it in there so it's not out and about.
Right.
Another thing I can do is I can go and strategically place fencing to create backyards. If I do it right, it's not that expensive. And it adds a lot of value to these tenants because they don't have that right now. So
Right.
I think we get so focused as investors and people that haven't invested actively, we get so focused on this front end of I'm going to buy this house. I'm going to just clean it up, paint it, and sell it. Okay, that's great. What are some little things you can do in a project to make it more valuable? I have, let me see if I can grab this one. So I did a flip a few months back, and I'll show you one of the things that I just share this. So when I bought it, there was a house on parcel number 2, and it sits right where my cursor is, the house. And it's just over an acre. So I looked at this and I said, okay, I bought the house with 300,000, and I went through the process, I subdivided it, so now I have 2 lots. Then I sold the house, recouped almost 100% of all the money that I put into it, and had that lot free and clear.
Hmm.
And some of the expenses I put in were for the lot. So a lot of times you look at flips as just a house. If somebody would have just done this as just a house, they would not have made as much money. We made a profit, my partner and I, of $110,000 on this.
Very, very good for a flip.
Really good for a flip. And we mitigated a lot of risk because we knew there was another asset we could get to. So when you're looking at creating inventory, when you're looking at different opportunities, my challenge to whoever's watching is, what is the highest and best use? What is the motivation of the seller? What are the value add opportunities? You don't have to do all the value add opportunities in one shot. You can do it over a year, you can do it over 2 years. But the important thing is that you're finding ways to increase the value substantially. I'll jump back and give you the example on the park out in Centerfield that I did that rock work. That park, we owe about $440 on it. Based on a 6% cap rate, it's worth about $3 million. Now, most people spend their time chasing, and a lot of people that are watching this are probably agents, and I'm an agent. I'm a licensed broker. So I'm not trying to knock agents, but most agents are not good at this, and most agents do not understand investing. And a lot of it's because they don't put in the time and because they're too afraid of it. They'd rather chase a $5,000, $10,000 check, or even a $20,000 check, than figure this out and do this. And one of the big advantages is I am the client. I'm my best client.
Yeah.
I don't cause myself to lose sleep at night, worried about what I'm thinking about myself. I'm my best client. So utilizing these skills, learning these skills, that's what is going to set you apart. You're also going to be able to find opportunities for your clients. They're different. But every time that I bring in a home, I'll give you a quick rundown on this. And this is going to be just fake funny numbers, right? So I'll give you my most extreme example. A home that I rent for $1,650 a month. Here's my gross rents per year, annualized. We're going to say that my expenses are 25%. So my profit, my net operating income is 75% of that number, which means that's what I walk away with. This does not take into account debt servicing. It's really important that people understand that, because you don't utilize cap rates, and I'll show you why in a second, but you don't put the financing aspect into this equation because it screws things up. Because everybody's financing is different, right?
Right.
But you can run this same math equation to find out the value of anything, any real estate, based on income. So in this area, you will find 6% cap rates. So you divide that number by the 6%, 0.06, and that means that one home being brought in theory, increased the value of my park by $250,000. we don't talk about this enough in real estate, but when you talk about multifamily, that's how they decide what it's worth. I'll run this really quick. So our lot rent is 500. So on the homes that we don't own, we went and added, so we got to 33 spaces.
Mhm.
So if it's 500 per space, we have 33 spaces. That's 16,500 per month. We're saying again that it's 0.75. So 25% expense rate. And I know I'm not sharing it again, but I just wanted to go through this quick. That means that per month, our net operating income is $12,375 on the lot rent of the whole park without counting any of the owning the homes. Because I know someone's probably thinking, well, are they going to look at that? Well, maybe, maybe not. But if I multiply this out by 12, so we're at 100, almost 150,000, 148,500. Divide that by 0.06, $2,475,000. So 2.5 million based on that approach. So I think we talk about that perspective, which is a real perspective. When appraisers appraise multifamily, they look at the income. And when you go to the bank, guess what they're looking at? Your debt coverage ratio. So I don't know if people talked about that too much on the podcast, but basically let's just make it really easy. If the bank says, yeah, your mortgage is gonna be $1,000 a month, we want 120% debt coverage. It's compared to your rent, then I would need to make $1,200 a month to hit the 120%. So you need to be above. Sometimes they do it at 100%. Most of them don't feel very confident and comfortable doing it 100%. So they usually want 120, sometimes even 130.
Hmm.
And DSCR loans, even on single family homes, they function the same way. Debt, right? DSCR is debt service coverage ratio loans. So I think having these conversations with agents, having people try to understand this more, it really changes the game. I mean, I'm 33. I have almost 200 rental units, and I'm starting to hit some pretty big cash flow. And the way that I do it is by adding value. I'm not asking my tenants to just pay me more because the market's gone up. I'm asking them to pay me more because I'm going to make their community better. So I know I went over a lot of stuff, but what questions do you have?
No, I think it was really great because you covered, a little bit of kind of what you talked about last time as well on, your principle and, just the overall fundamental of what it is that you're trying to
Yeah.
build. But I think it's great because, it's such a different way of approaching investing. Most people think that, you're investing and you should just kind of expect higher rents or expect rent to
Yeah.
come in versus what you're doing is you're turning it into a business where you're giving people a reason to pay you more rent. And you're doing it in a way where it's really creative, right? You're accomplishing a lot of different things at once. You're creating, better safety for the community, for the people, but also giving them an immunity or a better community, better amenities through, the barbecues that you're putting in. You're also putting in fencing, which is, in itself not, still cost, but it's not like a super expensive upgrade to the home, but you're
Yeah.
upgrading the value of the community that people live in. So you're really taking like, I think it's interesting because you see things from a different approach than a traditional investor would, which is kind of be, they're looking at things individually. You're more looking at it from a overall, how do I develop a better community for people to live in
Yeah.
overall? And I think that's going to translate really well when you're doing development from the ground up
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think smaller investors that look enough, and I consider myself a small investor still, because when you start doing this, you start realizing there's some really big, there's some really big guys out there. But when you start looking at your communities and what the communities are, changes everything.
Mhm.
And different communities will demand a different type of amenity or a different type of condition. Um, Sometimes the tenants don't see it. I have a park that I've raised rent on twice since I've owned it, so over about a year and a half. And we had somebody who was like, "Hey, when are you going to put this road in?" And I'm like, "We're working on it." But you realize this road's going to cost me $150,000, and your $75 a month increase isn't going to pay for that.
Mm.
It's going to help me to get a loan to pay for it. But you can complain to me, but you just don't understand how it works. And I try to find opportunities to improve my parks by utilizing other land near them.
Mm.
So I'll give you an example. Um, this is actually already on my screen, so I'll show you this. This is a project I'm working on right now. So if you see right here, this is a park I own. If I
Mm-hmm.
can get this to go.
Yep.
So this is a park I own, all on this left-hand side. And then there's all this land that's parallel. I don't know if I'll be able to buy this ground or not. We're going to see. I'm going to try to call them today. But my goal is to develop this side and put in a number of duplexes or single family homes, or do manufactured homes on foundations along here. And then have the city put in a nice asphalt road, because they have a brand new asphalt road right here, but have the city put in a brand new city road right here through the middle. So
Mm.
now I just made it so my park is now improved
Yep.
and has an asphalt road. And if the city really likes me, they'll put curb and gutter in for me, which is actually what they said they would do today. So we'll see if that happens. But like a situation like this really opens up opportunity to improve. But by doing another project, I can improve my existing real estate. I can like when like a developer goes to develop something, typically they're just developing that land and that's it. They move on. I'm developing that and it improves a buy and hold that I already have.
Yeah. That's such a great way to look at it. I mean, it takes years of practice, I'm sure, to get to that point where you're able to see things that way. But the fact that you've done it and you can see things this way now, it doesn't necessarily make things easier, but it does in the sense that it allows you to kind of compound your efforts, right? It allows you to develop this, but in doing so, because you're fulfilling a need, the city's going to come in and kind of support you on that. It's very similar to how you got your grant, right, for connecting to the water. And yeah, I just gotta say, man, we got to bring you back on again when you're doing developments just to see kind of what you're doing there, because I would be really interested to see kind of some of the things that you're implementing when you're developing from the ground up, how you're seeing things that way, kind of the scale of you're doing, and you know, I think the sky is the limit, right, for the things that you've been working on and how you approach things as well. So props to you for sure. I mean, like I think you should be doing more content based on based on the things that you're doing. I don't think you're doing enough
You
content,
just are. I'm busy. There's a lot of stuff going on. And it's hard to get to all these different projects. They're in different places. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes I'm just here at the office reading city ordinances,
man. Right.
city code. But I think the biggest thing that I want people to take away is just be fearless, get into the game. I mean, the bar is so low when it comes to these. If you're willing to put in the work and the effort, bar is so low with some of these small mobile home parks and storage facilities. I would put them right in the same bucket.
Hmm.
It's so low. And even, I mean, especially in some of these more rural markets, you can pick up real estate with really good terms. And I'll even tell you on some of the land that I've been looking at, almost all of it, they offer seller financing in these markets.
Hmm.
And the county in this specific area, they're willing to chip in to help this happen because they need housing so bad.
Oh,
And I imagine in every state, there's going to be places that need housing really bad. I mean, I grew up outside Los Angeles. My parents still live out there. I have siblings out there. And I mean, they just lost 15,000 housing units in the LA area. I mean, you're talking about 30, 40,000 people that now don't have a home. So lots of opportunity. Sky's the limit, like you said, right? I mean, people just need to get out there and make it happen.
yep, exactly. Get out there, try some things, right? Learn from other people, see what people are doing, and
Yeah.
take some action if that's really what you want to do. So,
Yep. Yep.
yep. Logan, man, I appreciate you being here. I know you got to run, you got some other things you got to get to, but if you're willing to come back, man, when you're ready to developing and working on projects where you're developing from the ground up, I would love to connect with you again later on this year and have you give us an update on how that's going because that'll be really interesting to see how you approach those projects as well.
Yeah, I'd love to. And people can reach out to me and follow me and follow along as well. And that's where I put most of what I'm doing up if I do. And I'm an open book. I have no problem with people reaching out. So
Awesome, man. Yeah. So yeah, why don't you share once again kind of where people can find you best? Is it Instagram,
yeah,
YouTube?
yeah. So my main place that I'm posting stuff is Instagram.
Mhm.
Um, let's see, I can share this, put this on here. So we
There you go.
don't have too many followers. I'm working on it, but multi-fam Moffett. There you go.
Awesome. We'll make sure to leave that and link in the description down below as well, so that way people can find you. I mean, you post a lot of great content from time to time. I think even you got to document even more, right? Because you're doing.
I tried to. But yeah, I'd love to be back on in a few months and I'll let you know what we're doing.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about that and follow your journey as well on your IG stories and videos too. But Logan, man, appreciate you being here today. We'll leave your Instagram in the description down below, and thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next show.
Hey, sounds good.
Take care.